Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today is everybody's favorite day of the week. It's the Thursday Collective. Not the most full house we've ever had. It was almost just going to be one of us. I mean, it's crazy sometimes, but actually next Thursday, we got a real jam-packed Thursday Collective. So let not your heart be troubled. The Thursday Collective's best days are ahead. For now, we're hoping Amanda Maxim can join us. But we do have a guy here who, he's rumored to be an heir to a large sparkling water fortune, but he's not allowed to tell us which. It's Mark Pellegrino.
What's up, Rucka?
Hey, so Mark is muted mostly for now because he's on hold making a reservation. Some of us, we like to balance our checkbook during the show. It's like whatever you got to do.
Hey, I already made the reservation. I'm waiting for the confirmation. So I don't know why they're making me wait for that.
Is it a dinner, or Isabel, if it's not too personal, is this like a dinner reservation?
No, it's a hotel. It's a hotel. I have to fly into New York for a day with my dog Frankie, and so I'm making a reservation with a place that I have, the membership privileges and stuff with, and they're just taking a long time.
Well, I think George Carlin would say, we hope you fly on to New York, not into New York. But that's a very crass joke. All right.
Good old George Carlin.
Kind of like get in the plane. No, don't tell me to get on the plane. All right, everybody. Listen, you know the topic today. What company would you buy? Obviously, we're inspired by Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, and he says he's going to make all these changes. We did an episode yesterday, Nikos and I, where I basically said Elon has no idea what he's even getting himself into, and he's going to, I think, make a complete fool of himself. Maybe not. But
wait, I know you already did the show, but you have to elaborate on that a little bit, because Yaron suggested something about that too, that there's a little bit more logistically to worry about than he's taking into consideration. But what do you mean by all that? He's going to make a fool of himself.
I mean, maybe make a fool of himself is a little bit hyperbolic, but not that I'm ever hyperbolic. It's more than a little bit of a logistical thing that he's unaware of. I mean, it's a huge task. You are dealing with a website that has millions upon millions and millions of people constantly posting stuff. You need to decide where's the line between the spirit of free speech and actually not having crazy people and predators, as well as promotion of all types of abhorrent ideas, plus the consideration of how to monetize this website. So if you have certain people voicing certain opinions on your website, you might lose your financial ability to monetize. There's all that. There's other social pressure, societal pressure, government pressure. God knows that, right? So in a free economy, it would be overwhelming enough to try and make these decisions. But in a mixed economy, in a lobby system that we have, where the government has a lot to say about what Twitter does, I don't think Elon quite understands what he's getting himself into. So that's kind of my elaboration.
Well, he did throw something out there, sort of a universal verification, so that you're talking to a human being instead of a sock account or or some bot. And that's something that I've been posing for a long time. I got a lot of pushback from people because how do you do that and at the same time preserve privacy? But hey, man, I think there is a way to do it. I don't know if it's creating a different algorithm. I think his main issues are going to be with the culture over there at Twitter. 98% of them seem to devote their extra resources to donating to the Democratic Party. That is a massive amount of prejudice, cultural prejudice, political prejudice, and moral prejudice against him. And I think that's the main thing that he will face. You do see the Democrats posturing a lot now, like pretending like these issues weren't an issue before and are only an issue now, as if we haven't been paying attention for the past 4 years, how this social media has magnified some voices and crushed others. And I think he'll be able to do it. I think the, simple objective rules and a way of lodging complaints against people who are lying and or threatening violence. And if you know who those people are, then you can link their identities to potential cases, definitely get them kicked off the platform permanently, like Trump. Trump can't come back on Twitter. I mean, he could sit in his basement and make up a sock account and tweet, but he can't come on as himself. I don't know. I think
Um,
you're right. It's going to be complicated, but I think it's possible for him to do something positive with that medium.
Maybe something positive, but how much positive and at what cost is going to be interesting to see. I would challenge the idea that conservatives are being, completely crushed. I think when you see Ben Shapiro and Tim Pool trending every single day, and their tweets, and many other conservatives having ungodly tens of thousands of retweets and likes, I mean, it does not seem like they're being silenced or crushed. I think, yes, maybe there were some controversies. Maybe Joe Biden's son's laptop or whatever it was buried. But okay, that at most is evidence that some people at Twitter have wanted a certain outcome of the election. But I don't think you can multiply that into a complete pattern.
Well, I don't think conservatives are being crushed. I think if you were hard right or hard left in either tribe, easily identifiable as part of a tribe, your voice gets magnified. Like I'm watching Zuby Music, who's a conservative rapper. I'm watching him talk about getting 30,000 new follows a day practically. And I'm hearing all the conservatives on social media talk about how their numbers are going up, 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 up. Where it's people like me, well, I'm not getting that same benefit because I don't fall into an easily identifiable tribe, and I'm often at war with both. So I tend to alienate both those extremes that get lots of play because it's conflict, right? What blood leads, violence leads, and it seems to be the same metric that Twitter seems to measure success by. If how much blood is in the water, how much controversy can this, provided the controversy is the proper type of controversy, meaning it melts in perfectly with the culture over there and their idea of the way the opposite tribe works.
Right. So I think to explain where all these new followers are coming from. So I think a reasonable inference is a lot of people left Twitter because they were considered to be stifling conservatives. And then Elon Musk bought Twitter. Still no changes have taken place, but a whole lot of people returned to Twitter with that news breaking and have followed conservatives. Whereas maybe people who watch your shows or like your philosophy thoughts, they never left Twitter. So they stayed on Twitter through all of this for the most part. So, but I will say this about the change that Elon already said, which aligns with what you'd like to see, which is that you need to prove you're a real person to sign up. I mean, we did an episode about that. I said it's going to be a hard sell for a lot of people. I'm not sure I'm opposed to it. I probably, if, for my personal preference, would avoid that change. But, I respect where you're coming from. A lot of the people cheering on Elon Musk buying Twitter are the types of people that like making anonymous accounts and fighting the left or fighting the establishment with a picture of an egg on Twitter. So, that's
yeah. Are you verified? You're verified.
Me, I don't even have a Twitter account.
You don't have a Twitter account?
No, I got suspended, but I don't think it was for like even being offensive or anything. It was like it was some technicality that a clip I posted was considered copyright.
You're an enemy of the people. You know it. You're an enemy of the people.
Yeah, pretty much. But I was at one point verified like 10 years ago. Pretty crazy. I had the blue check mark. I ended up losing it.
But that's all it is. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. It says this person is who he is, so that nobody can, claim to be you, and you don't claim to be somebody else, right?
But But is it going to be that everyone now will have a blue check mark?
I know it takes away from the status of the check mark, and celebrities will probably have a cow because they like distinguishing themselves from everybody else. But I'm not so. Maybe there can be a different type of status for the celebrities and influencers, since the influence that they carry is disproportionate, and they are content creators on social media. So I think the level of scrutiny for them could be a little bit higher. But hey, yes, something to show that this person is an actual person. And then I think they should purge Twitter. I think Elon Musk should purge Twitter of like the Republic of North Korea's account, the Ayatollah Khomeini, anybody who. If Putin has an account, get his ass off of there. Get anybody's ass off of there who represents, violence, violent political violence as an okay way of doing business around the world. Get them off. Get them out.
Yeah, I mean, on that we agree. If like domestic troublemakers like, I don't know, Gavin McInnes or whatever are kicked off Twitter, definitely the Taliban and, you know, Putin and arguably a number of other.
How is Gavin McInnes kicked off of Twitter and you have the Ayatollah Khomeini who still has an account?
Yeah.
Is that
well, yeah, not to go
Gavin McInnes is the comedian, right? Who used to be on the Five with the Gutfeld, right? He used to
on Red Eye, but Red Eye it was with Gutfeld. Yeah. But it's complex. I would not rush to downplay the trouble that Gavin got himself into by repeatedly not listening to good advice. Like people told him, this whole Proud Boys thing it looks really bad, and it looks like you're crazy insurrectionist, racist lunatics. And Gavin said, I don't care how it looks. I don't give a okay. Well, guess what? Now you're banned from everywhere, and you're accused of insurrection.
People have to know that optics matter, but optics matter only with one side, really. To be honest with you, I don't see the optics mattering so much on the left, because they have the ends justify the means philosophy, right? So the optics may be bad, but our ideals in the end need to be out there in the world. And so sometimes you have to get you have to break a few eggs to make that omelet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now, all of this to say, we're here to discuss what company would you buy? If any of you want to super chat us what you would like to buy, that would definitely be cool. Or if you're a member of the channel, also, why don't we read some of the members? If you're not a member, hit that join button. All right. I don't suppose you have any companies you've thought to yourself, I want, other than Pellegrino, of course, which would be pretty cool to own, I imagine. Have you ever thought, should I go first or what?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. I couldn't really think of any. This is supposed to be a jam-packed room full of people with I mean, Honig would be here he would have a PowerPoint, presentation of how what he would buy and what he would do with it. But it occurs to me, Nintendo would be cool to buy. To a large degree, I would let them keep doing what they're doing. I wouldn't completely change what they're doing. So what they're doing, I would keep, but I would add a significant department of reviving retro games. So something Nintendo did with the release of the Nintendo Wii is that they released Mario Bros, like new Mario Bros, which was very much in the spirit of the original Nintendo Mario games, but with, newer graphics and fun, bigger levels and more fun little features. But it was a very true, very good rendition. And they did the same thing a few years later with Donkey Kong Country, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, very, very faithful, I thought. And all the Sonic remakes, I think, can burn in hell. But they did a good job with the aforementioned. And they should do more of that. They should really bring back the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis games and update them. And there's a hunger for that. I think a lot of people would be happy to give them their money for those games. So there's what I would do. I would buy Nintendo. There you go, gamers. What do you think? Any thoughts on that, Mark? Or
you feel very passionately about this. I didn't know you were such a gamer. Are you a gamer?
I'm a retro gamer. So literally to this day, from the day I was a child until now, I still play Mario, Sonic, Donkey Kong Country. Like, it's just kind of what I do while listening to something or being on the phone. And when Nintendo made those update, like the new Mario games and stuff, that made me get a Nintendo Wii. Because up until that point, every console, it's always first person shooter games. That's what everybody likes. First person war games. I'm into side scrolling. So I think we really need to see.
You don't like the first person shooters?
Never got a Nintendo 64. Never played Doom. I'm not into that. How do you know what's behind you? How do you know what's behind you?
Well, nowadays the games are so sophisticated, you can flip around, and if you get the Oculus, you're immersed in the full world, and all you got to do is turn your head, see what's behind you. But you may not want to see what's behind you, my friend.
Yeah, evade it. But yeah, it's like now. So controllers went from having two buttons, right? Jump and punch, and or whatever, turbo and punch, and then up, down, left, right. Went from that, which is very easy for me to do. Suddenly, I got these controllers. 1996, I've got these controllers now with the A1, B1, C3, 6 buttons over here, and two joysticks and 4 arrows. Jesus Christ. How do these kids play these games?
But just think, you're staving off Alzheimer's, my friend. Right? All
Well,
these new skills you have to learn, these digital skills, you're burning new synapses in your brain. It's great for you.
Well, I can't spend my life running from Alzheimer's. Okay, a life like that.
Yes, you can, because running from Alzheimer's is actually, it means you're running towards learning new things every day, so that you stave off the potential effects of that. So I don't have a company that I would buy. I don't have a company that I feel that passionately about, other than, frankly, Twitter, which, if I were Elon Musk, I would be doing have the same aspirations to make social media a real public square where but I would probably try to treat people as content creators, and as that responsibility would be elevated for the special check marks, the real influencers. And if they're passing on false information or magnifying something that is proven to be false and libelous against somebody, then I would make the rules so that these people would not belong for the social media universe, and try to integrate them with the other platforms, so that a bad actor in one area, it alerts other platforms, so that and I'm talking about proven. It has to be objectively proven. It's not that I just don't like this guy, he's obnoxious. This guy is actually creating false narratives about people, or trying to take somebody down, which is hey, there you go.
I don't disagree necessarily, but I got to tell you, these things you're saying are like the lifeblood of everyone's Republican uncle on Facebook who thinks the left equals social media. So like literally when I'm like pushing back, and when you say the left is like has a disproportionate influence and that they're using that influence on social media, and I push back on that, I'm telling you, the changes that you're talking about implementing are the types of policy that make people think the left is a puppet master. Because now we're going to have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everyone, YouTube, all working together. Isn't that the Orwellian nightmare that Trump warned us about?
No. Well, I mean, it's not bad that they're working together, especially if they're trying to keep, trying to stave off slanders and libels and violence. Then that's a decent thing for them to work together on. And I don't mind companies colluding in that respect, because they're trying to keep, they're trying to mitigate violence without the use of government taking over and regulating the product. So that's far better than Ted Cruz taking it over, or some other punk from the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
I think these improvements could be really, really interesting. You may be right. It may be hard to do, but because I guess they have to do it by algorithms, right? They have to figure out an algorithm that doesn't that isn't prejudiced, but maybe strikes out against violence, right? Or
well, even if they have the manpower to do it efficiently, you're going to be seen as the George Soros of the internet if you were to roll out these changes. That's what I'm saying. It's not that I would consider you that. You would be perceived that way by the same lunatics who cry censorship while enjoying enormous success. That's what I'm saying. Should we read some super chats?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, Roland with 4.99 euro says, I'd love to buy the GOP and put the reason back into it, or more accurately, introduce reason into it. Back when Mark Levin was a decent human being, he used to read like Abraham Lincoln speeches on his show, which sounded back in the day, 19th century and whatnot, like people were deep, people were intellectual. They would speak in a way that would shock you living in today's political climate. So yeah, the Republican Party in its original inception, I think had a lot more Enlightenment sounding things to say than
definitely Lincoln did, but I think they adopted sort of a Whig platform, which is not dissimilar from left-wing Republicans or early 20th century Democrats. The Whigs thought that you should use government money to build infrastructure, schools, improve the life of the citizen, and an abolitionist platform was melded on top of that to create the Republican Party. So there's, when Lincoln's quoting from the Declaration of Independence, he's great. But he also expanded executive power and the power of government in general to a degree that it never shrunk back to the place that it was before he had power.
Yeah. History is full of irony. So it is ironic in a sense that Lincoln, the writer or the publisher of the Emancipation Proclamation, also did economic things that we're still paying the price for. And there's so much good and so much wrong with so many figures in history and so many movements and all that. So, but still, and when it comes to putting reason into the Republican Party, yes, in the past, people were not as apish as they are today.
I think maybe because there is reason in the Republican Party amongst their intellectuals, but what overpowers that eventually is their commitment to religion. So if I were to gain control of the Republican Party, I would take religion out of the equation.
Yeah. Now, this is obviously I agree. Now, for the purposes of today's exercise, like the Republican Party is not exactly something we can buy and change. Like it needs to change organically by the ideas that people believe. And hey, it could be that 20 years from now, we'll be looking at a Democrat Party that is the most objectivist influence. I know some of the haters out there will say, the objectivist movement today already is the Democrat Party wing. I get it.
There are people that say that.
Oh yeah, the people who hate ARI and all that. They call them obleftivists. They think like they're basically getting.
Where do they get this from?
I guess being pro-immigration is probably one of the big ones. Not hating, not emphasizing the left enough and criticizing Trump and really hating Trump and hating, criticizing religion in the Republican Party like you just did. It's often seen as not taking the leftist threat seriously enough by some people. So yeah. So but where I was going with that was like, hey, look, it's possible that at some point we'll see actually the Democrat Party be where reason and individualism makes a comeback, and in that future, maybe the Republican Party will be completely, off the table of parties.
But we can say there was definitely a time when the Republican Party had rational men in it, and when the conservative movement was rational, right? The Burkean conservative movement, the cat that you're on debated with, these are rational types of folks in the Republican movement that sort of harken back to the old days. When was the Democrat Party ever aligned with reason? Now, and I don't mean the Jeffersonian Democrats, because that wasn't really the Democratic Party. Post Jacksonian, post Jackson, when was the Democratic Party ever rational? I'm trying to think.
Maybe never, but the question is looking into the future. Oh yes, like most atrocities committed by America have been via the Democratic Party. I think that's a fair generalization, but contrary to what most people learn in school and all that. But
isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that the people who come out of academia look at the Republicans as the villains of history, and it's really the opposite. American history was all the evil institutions that people now equate with Republicans were actually all democratically initiated.
Yeah. But even so, it's quite possible that in the future, the party that leans more towards science, the party that is more supports your right to have sex for recreation, and so other ways, that the party that leans more towards legalizing drugs and all that, it's possible that that'll be the party where reason ends up, being in vogue. I mean, there's a lot we can't predict about the future. I'm just speculating. Some more super chats. Allie with $2 says, Mark has very chilled music, lol. Are you still on hold for your reservation?
No, it went to a busy signal, so I'm assuming I got booted off. I hope I still have the confirmation, because I'm showing up to that hotel on Sunday.
That's a company I think you want to buy, right?
What's that?
The hotel, or the waiting on hold company, whatever, if they're a subcontractor.
Yes, I would change the music.
Change the music and change it so you don't have to first give them your info on hold and then talk to finally a day later you get on hold, you get on the phone with a human being and they ask you the same questions again. What's your account number and all that? It's like,
and the worst is when you're saying it and the automated voice is, I didn't get that. And you have to say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Over and over and over until you're slamming the phone on the ground and pressing zero. Let me talk to a live human being.
I just yell operator now anytime I'm on hold. Operator! I think they have like a detector, like to know when someone's pissed off and yelling operator. Just put a, like, all right. Marilyn with $4. Thank you. Sammy's board again with 99 pence. Thank you. Marilyn with $2 says, would either of you buy Facebook? What would you change? I guess I would if I could, but I don't know. Here's what I would change. Yeah, I got one. Then you got one.
Yeah, sure.
Or you got an answer. Facebook made it so you need to pay to promote everything, your posts, or no one will see it. And that to me is the death of the internet, or the death of the cool internet. Like, just let it be organic, like YouTube still sort of is. Yeah. What do you think of buying Facebook?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, to boost your post, you have to pay money. Screw that. I don't really have complaints with Facebook because I have some very, very intense and detailed arguments with people on Facebook that I can't have on Twitter. So I actually appreciate the medium quite a bit. I am a little paranoid that I'll get caught up in their logarithms, their whatever that algorithm, and get booted off for saying something, that isn't appropriate. But so far they haven't done that to me. So, and I'm only interested in talking to the people I'm talking to at that time. So I don't care who sees it, to be honest with you, but I don't know. Yeah. I would change the post boost phenomenon too.
Yeah. Sammy's bored again with 449 pounds says watching Rucka gaming is fun. Allie with $2 says Rucka called a radar. That's how you see behind you. Mark, you understood that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You have bat senses, right?
Yes, I have. I am an insect. Rose with 499 euros. Now those are the nice dollars. Those are the ones worth something. None of that Australian.
Hey, pounds are worth something too.
Yeah, they're actually worth more than euros. I think I learned yesterday. All right. Rose says would buy Instagram and change that, or perhaps building a new platform for artists, a mix between Twitter and Instagram. Well, there's a nice idea.
What about TikTok?
Exactly.
Are you on that?
I think I was, but it's very easy to get kicked off of TikTok.
It is?
Oh, yeah. Many people who you'd be surprised were kicked off there.
Plus, I heard. Go ahead.
Well, one of their big creators, Bella Porch, a big, huge success story from TikTok, actually got her account suspended. And she might have gotten it back by now, but the fact that she was suspended tells you that much smaller creators have no means to reach TikTok when they get suspended frivolously.
Is it true that it's a Chinese company and that all of your information is funneled through the Chinese government and probably held captive by the CCP or the military industrial complex over there?
I would say probably yes, but that's what we all basically are living with when we use any technology. Like, our information is out there, our privacy, our phone. Have you ever had a conversation and then your Facebook ad is for like the thing you were talking to someone about?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's literally. Well, it is. But when people compare it to 1984, I'm saying, the party in 1984 was not trying to sell you stuff. They were not trying to seduce you.
They were just listening.
They were watching, and they were punishing, and they were abolishing the orgasm. Here, companies now are competing to give you an orgasm.
This is the third time you brought up sex in this conversation. What is this all about? Yeah, you said sex for pleasure. The Democrats, sex for recreation. That's it. Democrats are okay with sex for recreation, and now you've just talked about 1984 trying to take away the orgasm.
We got some more super chats.
What's going on there, Rucka?
Allie with $5.
Wait. This is an anything goes day, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about Putin threatening us again with nuclear weapons?
Threatened us?
Well, threatened Europe. He threatened anybody who interferes with his war. He's going to lob a nuclear weapon. What do you think of that shit?
He should get what's coming to him. I don't know what that would look like. To quote Leonard Peikoff on Bill O'Reilly's show back in the day, I'm not a tactician, but I can tell you the principles to follow. So Putin it should be made very clear to Putin that he is standing on very thin ice. Really, he should be out of power by now if the West had, a spine. But
does that look something like this? if you threaten any semi-democracies, and that's sort of a semi-free state with nuclear weapons for interfering with a war you started, that is automatic grounds for cancellation. That means he's not who he is. His days on this earth are limited. I'm talking about cancellation of life, cancellation of everything. You're dead. We come after you and we will kill you now. Right? I mean, he's made his intentions clear. He's threatening us. It's like he's holding a woman with a knife at her throat and saying, "Let me rape her, or I'll shoot that guy." You got to kill that guy. You just got to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how that looks either, but you got to kill him.
You got to. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, we're talking about, should the Taliban be on Twitter? The Taliban should be a faded blip on the blip in history. Just like, oh, remember the Taliban? Yeah, they're whatever, they're
we should have destroyed them completely. Yeah, no, the answer to that though is, of course, they shouldn't be on Twitter.
They shouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't have developed in the first place, but for Western weakness. And I mean, you got to go farther back. You go in history, the more regret and remorse. All right, Allie with $5 says, I want to buy the presidency since we're doing this fantasy world. Lol. President Allie sounds amazing. I'd bring reason and everyone gets a kitty. Well, that's pretty nice. Also, in the members, we're not going to get to all of them, but like Robert said, he would buy Musician's Friend / Guitar Center. And okay. Allie said, and I made me want to read this one out loud, I'd buy WB's Warner Brothers to fix DC. Which leads me to ask you, Mark, wouldn't you want to buy like a major studio or something to make the changes that you think should be made, or do you kind of like showbiz the way it is?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even really think about that. It's funny that I didn't think about that. Yeah, no, I don't. Well, do I like show business the way it is? I'm liking show business. The show business that is decentralized as it is now with all these streaming platforms. There's so much great content. Mm-hmm. Better content that could have come out if the studios had control of everything. I know Peter Bogdanovich would probably disagree with me. At least I've read that he liked the studio system because he felt it groomed actors and looked after them, and the products were much better when there was a studio system than when it became independent. But I like this independent content, and there's some good. We're going to be reviewing a show tomorrow called Station 11 from HBO Max, which is pretty decent. There's no villain in it, and it has a heroic sensibility and a very positive perspective on humanity. And it's a post-apocalyptic show where the apocalypse is a pandemic that wipes 98 or 99% of the people off the face of the earth. But what everybody coheres to make civilization again is really beautiful. It's sort of inspiring, man. You should check it out.
I want to, especially if it is going to be reviewed on TV Talk, which is a great show. Yeah, so there's a lot of great content, right? And there's a lot compared to 20 years ago or whenever. I mean, night and day, no question. TV has gotten really good. Some would say movies have lost a lot of their appeal, maybe because of the globalization. So maybe because now studios are considering, well, we want the Chinese to watch this movie, or we want people that hardly speak English in the third world to watch this movie. So they're dumbing it down. Maybe that's one of it. Or maybe it's because the best projects go to streaming. The best projects want to do 10 episodes, not an hour and a half of content, right? So maybe that's why.
Yeah, I don't think the movies are getting worse. I mean, they reflect different values, and sometimes that makes the movies more interesting and complex for me. So I think we're in another type of, I don't want to say golden age. Like there's a golden age of film, and then there was a rebellious stage in the 60s and 70s that some very interesting stuff came out. And now I think we're sort of in that phase again, where some brilliant content is coming out in the movies that I think is really relatable. I think a lot of people can find comfort and solace in the art that's being produced. It's not all nihilistic and
crappy. So So here's an instance where I'm being the sort of uncle on Facebook saying everything today is trash, and you're actually pointing out there's the nuance or the the actual facts that actually are not what I was saying. But as someone who's trying to see the Atlas Shrugged loose adaptation produced, would you say it's very frustrating to get anything done in this town, so to speak?
That's a fact. Yes, it takes a lot of time to get something up. From 5 to 10 years to get something up. So shopping deals that are only go for a year don't necessarily cut it. And Ayn Rand, of course, is a heavy package, a heavy burden to carry through Hollywood, because there's a great deal of prejudice with respect to her philosophy. Sight unseen. It's just the name carries with it. Negative sense to people in Hollywood. But I think Jackson, I think they've and Jennifer have come up with something very modern, something very up to date and subtle and interesting and funny, which you don't necessarily connect with Rand, and heroic, and something that non-objectivists can relate to, right? But if I were to buy studios, I would certainly fire the woman, what's her face, the head of BLM, who's now becoming like a content curator at WB. I would fire her. I would take the good from the wokeness, which is this idea that we don't see enough of these other people represented in film and TV, and use that, because there's a lot of great talent that we've all been exposed to over the last couple of years because of Hollywood trying to prove that they're moral, but that we might not have been exposed to before. And I really like watching these folks. I would just not make it. I would make these woke relationships not the majority of the content, but we would accept it, and it would be a part of the world that we live in. It wouldn't be the whole world that we live in,
And our goal at the end of the day is individualism. That's where we want to get at the end of all these changes. So the end goal should not just be every community being represented equally.
Right.
That's stupid.
Well, and they're not. They're overrepresenting some communities to prove their moral worth to the rest of us. So it's a virtue signaling, but it's also opening people up to other modes, right? Other ways of other types of relationships that should be legitimized if we're individuals, if we're individualistic, right? This relates to say this relationship is okay. We don't have to hide it. It doesn't have to be closeted.
Yeah, speaking of the difficulty of getting things produced, Michael Paxton, I think.
Yeah.
So I think he once told me, when he's tried to explain the Fountainhead to people in Hollywood, he would tell them, just picture dealing with the studios, dealing with, trying to get a project greenlit, remove the word movies and add the word architecture. And that'll tell you what this character is dealing with, trying to get his buildings done. So he
would pitch that to people in the movies.
I don't remember exactly when that came up, but he was making the point that what Rourke deals with when they keep on trying to ruin his buildings is kind of what a lot of people deal with, trying to get their project done right when going up against the studio. It seems like maybe something that a lot of people have felt like they have to deal with. You watch a DVD commentary, there's a dated concept. And the director is talking about, and then I had to deal with Harvey Weinstein on this thing, and then I had to deal with the studio on that thing. Every time the Weinstein company wants it to be more commercially friendly, but the director wants to be an artist and to do it the right way, right?
The one thing he didn't have to deal with Harvey Weinstein on was Harvey Weinstein asking him to watch him take a shower.
As far as we know. Did you want to answer the call in case it's the hotel?
Yeah, all right. I don't know what it is.
All right. Rose with 199 euros says, Mark, do you imagine yourself owning Twitter?
No, I don't imagine myself owning Twitter.
Yet. Ali with $2 says, I just finished Station 11.
I do imagine myself owning having $43 billion though.
Yeah. That's for sure. Ali with $2 says, I just finished Station 11. I understood little, with an upside down smiley face. Now,
it's definitely not a style for everyone. It took me a little while to cope with the multiple timelines and the back and forths, and there's multiple timelines, multiple characters, and they all interconnect. They come together at a certain point, but they all interconnect through the whole story in very interesting ways. And sometimes the dialogue and the way that ideas are dealt with is a little mystical, a little poetic, right? Because there's a graphic novel that's sort of a piece of art, in other words, that unites everyone together. And there's this really great this girl who becomes an adult and an actress in a traveling troupe of theater troupe. She says something really interesting to me. It's something like this. She's like, when I was reading this book, even when it was the end of the world, it wasn't the end of the world. This book was my world. And I think of Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged or any great piece of art, irrespective of where you are in the world, that art represents a type of value to you that gives you hope and strength and fuels you for the future. And it was a beautiful thought. And the fact that a certain play is sort of center stage, and the production of these plays from this traveling troupe is sort of center stage of the piece. It really gives you the sense that art is not just like fuel, as Rand would say, but a life preserver.
Yeah,
I like it. It's definitely a style that it's a little hard to get through sometimes.
yeah. Well, Robert also says, speaking of TV talk, with it's $2, he says would love an update on the strike tomorrow. So maybe there'll be an update.
Okay, yeah, Jax and Jennifer will be able to do that because they've been negotiating with this dude, but we've all signed NDAs, so there's only so much we can say.
Ooh, okay. Cough, if you have the titular line. Boy, I'm so tired of the strike. Okay, I don't hear a cough, so I guess not. All right. I missed one from Allie. It's for $5. Your map on a game is called a radar. You asked how to see behind you. Okay, that sounds like too much work now. Now I'm using 2 buttons to look behind me or to look at a map. I don't want to look at a map. First of all, I want to walk to the right and jump on the heads of bad guys. Second of all, why is it called a radar if it's a map? Well, I mean, as to quote George Carlin again, can we try paying attention to a language we all agreed on? All right, I'll relax. That's all the time we have, I think. Let's
really? Wow.
Well,
it turned out to be fun, even though I had no companies I wanted to buy.
Yeah, but we found some answers, and it made for great conversation. We're never at a shortage of things to talk about around here. We are not simple-minded people, although I did just call myself a simple man a moment ago. Coming up today at 7 p.m.
You implied that you have issues with coordination issues, hand-eye stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So coming up today at 7 p.m. UK time, it's Enjoy Parenting with Lisa Van Dam and Kyle Steele. The episode is A Baby Probably. The topic is deciding if to have a child or not. Ooh, there's a decision people should make and should be able to make on their own. And then the Clubhouse after show is after that. At 10 p.m. UK time, it's Life on Earth with Robert and Amy Nasser. On the topic is sex, pro or con, and then a Clubhouse after show.
For or against sex?
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm for it. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, I guess it seems pretty universal, but we'll find out. Actually, it's not universal. Many people treat it like a problem. They rail against it. And religion, I think, plays a big part in that.
Recreational,
and not only religion. The nihilist, egalitarian, environmentalist left have, in some instances, turned joy and sex. I mean, yeah, the extremities of the social justice feminists. They basically believe all sex is rape.
That's right. That's true. Yes.
Philosophy.
There's Puritans everywhere.
Philosophy is serious business, folks. So you better pay attention. And thank you for your support, everybody. Thank you for the super chats. Please hit the join button to become a member. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
New Daily Objective is back here tomorrow, same time. And goodbye.
Bye.